Hello YouTube, today I have here probably the biggest amplifier ever been on my table. So this is the B2 Audio M15 Raven, the Raven M15R I think it was. It's so big I cannot actually see what the initials are there, but hey, this is the biggest amplifier I've ever seen on my table. Now this is not the biggest one in power, so Sound Digital 35,000 watt amplifier what I unboxed like a year ago, that probably outputs a little bit more, but this actually can output over 21,000 watts out. So this is rated at 15,000 watt at 1 ohm, and at 0.8 ohms Steve Mead managed to get out a whooping 21,686 or something like this, with his device, link in description if you want to see his video. Really nice. So first of all, as you can see, I've already taken it apart, so we'll be seeing some amp guts. Oh, this is so heavy. And first of all, we just check it out, what it has on outside. So this is a big amplifier, like really heavy. It is around 20-30 kilograms, and it has a connection from you can connect it into your wall from on the sides. It has little plate on here and on back side here, and also in here between the amplifier is 1, 2, 3 on other side, on either side, these where you can connect this into your wall or your amp rack. So this is a good thing that usually a big amplifier like this has only connections on the outer edges, which tends to leave the amplifier a little bit wiggling room to do some damage to it. But it has on the center of here a connection hose, so you can connect it safely. Now on this side, I will be taking video from my Finnish unboxing here. On this side we have a signal side, which has signal inputs. And then I just need to move this a little bit around because I don't want to show the insides of the amplifier now. I just want to bang. Check it out what's on this side. So we have signal input left and right, then power or power and protection light. Then we have gain, subsonic, bass boost, remote, LPF, phase, and slave and master RCAs. Quite standard. But then we have this little bit of ABD, and what that is. Now according to the owner's manual, the ABD stands for ABD port, voltage display port, connects of external voltmeter display monitor amplifies voltage. So you can hook up a external voltmeter inside, because this is one big amplifier. You need to see how low your voltage goes, so you don't want to destroy this kind of a nice piece of car audio history. I said it's history because, well, there have been many big amplifiers, but this is a really big one. So after that we have 5 terminals on here. They are actually, I measure it quite quickly here, it's around 6 millimeters. So you have remote on the signal side, and then you have 2 outputs, 2 for positive, 2 for negative. Now this is a monoblock, so it does not have 2 channels, only 1 channel, but you can hook up more than 1 wire per positive and negative, just to have a more not more outputs, but you can connect more wire to it. Now on the other side you have really nice set of terminals. Now one thing I noticed in here, that this amplifier actually is rated to have a 1200 amperage of fusing. Now it has 4 outputs here. The outputs are around 12.7, 12 standard 50 or 0 gauge wire inputs, 4 of them. So that means that you should have around 300 amperage of fusing per wire here, positive wire here. But as an example, I think if I remember correctly, in EMMA ESPL here in Europe, European Mobile Media Audio or something like that, you can only have a 250 amp fuse for a 0 gauge wire or a 50mm wire, but in 12.7mm hole you can easily fit a 70mm square millimeter wire, so that is a double aught wire. So with that you can hook the 300 amp fusing on it. So that's safe, really big power side here, many wires. This actually is around 1 meter, 92 centimeters on the length, 32 centimeters wide, and 6.9 centimeters thick. Capable of from 9 volts up to 16 volts. And under 9 volts, I have a little surprise for you. More of that inside the amplifier. It has a bass boost. Nobody really uses that, I hope. But let's just check it inside. That's what we are all here for. So let me take it this easily on the other side, so I can show you the internals of this monstrous amplifier. Whoop. As you can see, it has a red PCB board. Now I will be just turning this around and slowly put it on the table so we can check the internals. And let's talk about a little bit more about internals. Now take everything I say with a grain of salt. I'm not a core audio specialist when it comes to internals of amplifier. I know stuff, but hopefully you can correct me into the comment sections. Now let's just put GoPro here on, and as you can see, it has a huge power side. Actually 6 big toroids here, and the capacitors here are actually 250 watts with a 1500 microfarad capacitors, really big capacitors with a really nice B2 Audio aluminium sticker on it. Really awesome. So if you can put a plexiglass over here and a little bit LED lights underneath here, it will be really good looking amplifier. Now as we can see here, we probably have a 6 banks of MOSFETs here, 3, 3 and 3, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 per bank, a total of 6, 12, 20, 18, 36 MOSFETs in the power side. Then we have the board is actually cut between here with a nice connections to the ground. I think it's ground, yes, hopefully. And then we have what can we also see here, that it is connected from many places to the chassis of the amplifier. That makes it much easier to when you have a big amplifier like this, very long amplifier. If you hook it up only from the ends, the amplifier tends to a little bit wiggle around, and it cuts down the legs of the MOSFETs. And if one MOSFET dies in one bank, the whole bank will go down, and hopefully not destroy the circuit here that controls the bank. So with that keep in mind, some of the big amplifiers like old ground zero amplifiers did not really have any connections between here, so they had a little bit of problems of the wiggling around. Now usually nowadays new amplifiers actually still have this kind of problem. Bearwitz, YouTuber Bearwitz talks about it a lot when he repairs the amplifiers, and that's the channel where I've learned a lot of this stuff. But in here we can see the card for the power side section. This will do the all the dirty work, take the really high amperage out of the battery and power up the signal side over here. And on the signal side we can see that actually there's one zip tie loose, but if I just check it out, this moves very it moves a bit same, so they are already glued underneath, and then it has a zip tie. Now this zip tie has been broken somehow, probably I cannot take it off, so I leave it be there. They are really nicely, everything is glued in, like the big components here, black CA glued here and a bit silicone glue here. It's quite softy to touch. Everything is glued into place very nicely. And then if we can see on the signal side here, this actually uses this kind of RCAs, which are really easy to repair. If this one breaks, it's just really easy, just swap on another one, and they are really beefy RCA terminals, beefier than normal. What else I can see here? I can see that the amplifier actually uses a 1% resistors, so these are high quality resistors. This amplifier has not been under a well, when you make an amplifier, normally you want to make a lot of batches, and the cheaper the board is, the better the revenue you can have. But this has nice quality components all around here, and using the high quality 1% resistors here and there. Actually, I don't see any of the bigger percent resistors here, so this is probably a bit higher quality than the rest of the Korean amplifiers I've actually opened up, and the red board also is really expensive, but it is a really nice board. Actually, if I can see somewhere here, it has some kind of markings, SMB 43207. If we can see what kind of board this is, part number SMB. Oh, actually this is the different board. The power side board is different than the signal side, of course, with the connections here. So probably some amplifiers will have the same power side and different signal side. Not much of any details here, only the cap stickers here that are B2 audio are changed. This actually has a really nice fan here, really high quality fan for this kind of amplifiers. Should be quite easy and not a too loud amplifier. And what can I talk more about these amplifiers? Now in here we have the signal side drivers. So this drives the actually I think this is the one that controls if it goes into protection mode or not. So this one sends signal, waits for signal from the power side before turning on the signal side. If you have something breaking in here, this will cut it down and put protection on. So this amplifier has a quite, for the space here, it has a quite small signal side here. Now bass amplifiers, subwoofer amplifiers tend to have really small the signal side, but compared to the other amplifiers I've been unboxing, this has actually really huge signal side, because it's a huge amplifier, quite wide and quite long, and it's actually really big signal side here. What that does is that when you have if you want to have the best possible amplifier in sound quality wise, you need to have really good signal side to get rid of all of the switching noises and all of the noises that the transistors and MOSFETs are making here when they are raising up the voltage and using the signal and amping up it to let's say this is a 15,000 watt amplifier. This should output like a 250 volts at maximum. So when you are putting in a 0.2 volts, so that's 200 millivolts, and amping up, it's up to a 250 volts or 200 volts. It's 1000 or more. Is it 1000 times bigger? Well, when it gets amped up, the signal, it makes really much of these noises onto the signal, and it needs to be filtered out before it goes into the signal side. So with having a beefy good signal side makes it a good amplifier. Actually in Genesis amplifier, I've recently fixed one Genesis A-class amplifier. It had really small power side section, like really small for a 1000 watt amplifier. but it had the signal side like 60-70% of the inside of the amplifier was signal side, and that made it that it is a very high quality one. Now it was A, B and multiple channels, but this is a D. I think this is well, we tend to say that these are Korean amplifiers, but the quality inside here is just I have actually really nothing to pick on. So only thing I should be like saying is that well, what can I find here that it's not made good? Probably nothing. Maybe some capacitors might be a little bit more shielded up, but it's not necessary to have on these subwoofer amplifiers anyhow. The markings on the signal side cards have been drilled out or sanded out. It makes it a bit difficult. If it breaks, it makes it quite difficult to find a new one, but we have our ways to find out where we can get those parts, but everything in here just looks quite amazing. Really amazing big amplifier. Now more about this amplifier. It has a signal to noise ratio over 90 decibels, which is quite okay. 6 to 2 volts, and actually I talk about the 9 volts of the, this is 16 volt. This can handle up to 16 volts. Actually on the power side here we can see 35 volt 4700 microfarad capacitors here. So these are not low, these are high, 35 volts. These were 250 watt volts, and these were 250 watt volts, also 1500 microfarad. These are actually the same capacitors. We have 680 microfarads here, quite beefy big capacitors here. And on this side, on the power side driver board, you have this little jumper here, and it says text 9 volt on and 9 volt off. If I take this jumper and put it in on this side, it actually will allow the amplifier to go under 9 volts. Now I don't recommend any amplifier to be driven under 9 volts. It's just pure madness. And if you think that this is a it has around efficiency around 82%. The most of the amplifiers have the 80-90% efficiency, so it will draw over 15,000 watts from the battery bank or capacitor bank or whatever you have, lithium batteries there. But if you want to put the amplifier into distortion, you can get a little bit more output in the near the distortion, a little bit over on the distortion. It's not recommended, but hey, you can get more power out from it. But then the efficiency goes down, and it goes down like really heavily. I had a 3000 watt amplifier and I managed to get like 5400 watt out from it momentarily, but it drew like 650 amps with the efficiency of 45 to 55%. So if you put this amplifier into distortion, it will be drawing like a 20,000 2000 amps out from the battery bank, which is quite insane. Not recommended, but hey, you can do it. So that's about it about this big beefy amplifier. The dampening is around 400, 40 gauge input, 9 volts up to 16 volts. You can use this, and oh boy, just look at it. Hopefully I will not drop it, but hey, I will be showing the inside of the amplifier here. Oh, a little bit of glare there. So that's about it. The Raven M15R inside, really nice amplifier. B2 Audio has surprised me in many ways over the last year. Every time I unbox some of the stuff or unbox some of the amplifier or speakers or subwoofers, they tend to have a little bit more extra. Now this is no exception. This has really much connections into the chassis of the amplifier, so it helps it gives the amplifier bigger life expectancy because it will not start to wiggle around if you put it in your car and play it in conditions where there's vibration. And it has these holes here, 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 and on the bracket here and here, so it has very many places you can hook it up to have it safely on the spot. Just wow. Have you ever seen this big amplifier? I'm quite taken because I had the opportunity to unbox this one. And actually, if you see on my Finnish video, the Warranty Void stickers were already broken, so I was not the first one to check inside here, but I will be showing it onto the video. This is what a 15,000 watt Raven is from the inside. And actually, as I mentioned earlier, 21,000 watts and something Steve Mead made. Had the chance to take it out from this kind of beast. Check it out, the link in description. And wow, that was B2 the Raven. Thank you for watching. Like if you like, dislike if you dislike, and leave a comment. Do you like B2 audio? I'm really enjoying their stuff. They surprise me every time I take something from them and test it out or something. They keep surprising me. A very pleasant surprise. And that's all for today. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video. Bye bye.